Huh? I don't know. She was just out here a second ago. She probably locked something.
The usual fucking intro. It's the third day of the extra 5 solar days, so it's like, whatever. This time doesn't, exist in the calendar. It's just 5 extra days to make sure that the solar calendar is, solar. And not just decimalized, right? Like, the Gregorian kind of solves it by having some months have more days than others, which, doesn't really make a lot of sense. Nothing about the Gregorian calendar makes a lot of sense. The whole thing is just a real shit show. It's like some dude just stuck his dick in it and was just like, oh, 2 entire months are going to be displaced. Oh. Fuck your 7th month called September. That's now named after me, the emperor of the whole entire universe. Julius Caesar, the supreme ruler. I'm actually not even sure he named it after himself. And then Augustus Caesar. Someone told me that these smell like cum, and I think cum smells disgusting. Yeah, it definitely doesn't. I don't think people know what they're talking about, but I also may not know what I'm talking about. And they seemed pretty sure. But I don't trust that just because people sound sure that means that they're right. If anything, it's the opposite. It's like, wow, you're so fucking sure, huh? And it's dangerous too, because a lot of people don't check their work if they're ignorant, and a lot of people that are ignorant become doctors. So a lot of time you end up with a lot of just ignorant information that's just being espoused. This is why science and objective physics is one of those interesting things, because it's you can be wrong, but the scientific method should be able to prove that you are wrong, right? Or at least partially correct and incorrect, right? And the other thing is physics is very interesting because there's a lot of non-binary states, we'll say, of physics, but you have to choose where there is no non-binary state. You have to be very precise whether or not that you're engineering to Mach 1 or Mach 4. Those are not the same forces. In fact, they actually may be forces that are so greatly different from each other that you have to re-engineer the entire project. You can engineer the entire product a little faster, a little faster, a little faster, a little faster. If we could just redesign the engine. This is a real case, by the way. This really happened with the early fighter jets. And they were designing spacecraft because why wouldn't you pour all your fucking money into spacecraft, right? It makes the most sense, in my opinion, as say a war general in the 1930s, right? 30 years go by and I'm still in charge, or now I'm in charge? Are you kidding me? If I have even the slightest chance that I could wave the pen, it's gonna fucking happen, and we're gonna pour everything into it. And you can sit here and you can hate on us, but when we go to space, first of all, you won't even know about it because it's gonna be so classified, and you're not important enough that we give a shit to tell you about it, because we don't have to. We're working for the gods that we choose to work for. And right now, if I can pen wave that, we're going to make it happen. So let's do it. Let's investigate how far we can push it. If we can just make that engine just 20% bigger, right? There's this new thing, right? It's 1945. It's called nuclear power. We saw what it did when not contained. If we could just contain it, how close are we to containing it? Probably very. If we could put all of our money into nuclear research and nuclear engines, how fast can we go in space? Can we rip space-time apart? Do we have to worry about ultrasonic ballistic missiles? No fucking way, dude. We're going to be fighting each other in space. Oh, wow, I'm going to build ICBMs. Wow, look at you. You're so smart. My team is going to destroy your team, and we're going to take your funding, and we're going to use it, and we're going to make not only a faster fighter jet, we're going to completely re-engineer the scope of where we are. Because now we're going to be able to fight on the moon, on Jupiter. Well, I'll fight you on every single planet, right? And this is a real story. This was this guy, and he was able to get the money, and he waved the pen, and he made this really happen. And they were trying to do Skunks projects before it was deemed impossible, we'll say, to build a nuclear spacecraft that also is a submarine. People were trying to, so up until that point, right, they had been trying to push it just a little further, a little faster, a little further, a little faster. Truly the dawn of flight. Those people are not trying to re-engineer thermodynamic mechanics when it comes to metallurgy and the way that can withstand the strong nuclear force out in space, so that we don't get our entire spacecraft ripped by oblivion radiation that is otherwise shielded by our magnetosphere, right? That's a real thing that you actually have to contend against. That's not just mumbo jumbo, right? That's not just, which is a racist thing. You can't talk about mumbo jumbo because it's sacrilege, but it's sacrilege in a way that it's like, it's making sacrilege against a minority group that is already persecuted enough, and you just don't need to pick on them. It's politically incorrect, so you're not allowed to do it. Whoa, someone's flying a Confederate flag. Whoa, dude. Well, it's actually is it the Union Jack? I forget what it's called. Hold on. I have things to say about this flag. So, in my ignorance, I actually forget the name of that flag. I just know that people often mistake what, first of all, that flag is. Because, you know, there's a difference between, like, quote-unquote, a battle standard and, quote-unquote, it's like the difference between, well, the Blue Lives Matter flag is one of those interesting ones because the police wear it, and it's like, dude, what are you doing? So, this is an interesting one. Absalom B. Banbridge, First Lieutenant, maybe, is that what it is? First Lieutenant, Company G, 43rd Virginia Cavalry, Confederate State Army, absolutely. See what I mean? So it's like, but is that the Confederate flag, right? Or is it a battle standard? Because there's a difference. But there's a difference between flying an enemy flag, right? Like, they like, truly, like, it's like, it is a flag of its time, but, you know, I don't know how leftoids would feel about it. I don't personally care. Like, truthfully, like, I'm not politically indifferent. I'm a ghost, right? I'm a journalist. I'm a ghost. My job is to not touch something. It's the same way that those people that do all those trespassing things, right? Right now, basically, what I'm doing is trespassing. I don't have permission to film here, but I'm not trying to profit. So, like, I just hope that, you know, the commercial ramifications don't catch up and they don't totally ban my channel and remove all my content. They might. I would cry. You know, they'd have to get a court order. And, like, yeah, they could, I think. But I'm not really breaking the law. Wait, see the shoot. And so I try not to record here, you know, like, things like at night, for example. Like, once they close those gates, you're not allowed to film here because it's private property. And without permission to film when it's open to the public, I take it upon myself to respect that right as the First Amendment, because to me, the Constitution is really important. Now, to this person, the fact that, I can't say whether in his heart that he believed that people that had a different skin color than him, or that were a different species than him, to him, you know, I can't tell you whether that was in his mind. I don't know. I have no idea. It's possible. I think it's cool that they marked it, though. So, because otherwise I would have never even noticed that, you know, I would have, you know, because you got to think about it, right? Like, how many of these men's ideologies lined up with, but, you know, because, like, here's the thing, right? And here's why, it's not that I have a problem with it. It's like, here's my political commentary on it, right? Dixie was a different country. It was a different belief structure. It was a different time and era that, like, definitely we don't really have many of the same or similar mindsets that we know of at this time. And we also don't have many of the same systems in place, or, like, you know, like horses and such like that. We don't have any of those. They didn't have highways back then, right? But it represented, a monarch. It represented a different country, right? And in that country, not only was it lawful, it was encouraged by the courts to own other people. And I mean as property, own other people. And to control, as property, other people. And so there's a reason that some people take kind of offense to this flag, if they don't know what that flag is. If they were educated and knew more what that flag was, then they would make apology for it. They'd be forced to make apology for it, because they would have to play an intellectual game with somebody about who's going to arm wrestle the history of that flag under, or who's going to retroactively change the meaning of that flag, right? Because to some people, them's is fighting words. Right now, to other people like me, it's like, I'm trans. You know, if someone was flying this on their car, I'd be like, well, why are you doing that? Is it because you want to own other people? Like, why, what exactly, you know, how do you feel about me? Like, say push comes to shove, right? Gun comes to your neighborhoods, to your supermarket. And I hope that never happens, but say it does. Am I going to get shot because you need food, or am I going to get shot just because you don't like me? There's a difference, right? And it's not to say that it'd be okay to shoot me in either way. It's just to say that, like, it isn't for survival. It's just to kill you, right? And I don't know. So this flag right here, I at least trust, maybe I shouldn't, to uphold the Constitution, right? Like these Marines, they may be right wing as fuck. They may hate me. They may not believe for in an instant that that people, first of all, people are people. But they may also believe that you could own other people, but it doesn't matter, right? Because it's this country. It's the American flag. It's the unionized flag. It's an agreement to a constitution that you don't actually get a choice whether or not that you're going to follow it or not. When the courts make that decision for you, if you're going to make a decision under that, that's fine. But we've given you what the decision is, and unless you're willing to fight a war against us, which the South is willing to do, or in this case, the North actually, in most instances, was going to do, so that, because it was interesting, because it would have been the birth of really a new nation and an entirely new way of life. But that way of life was so sick and was so racially based that it needed to be annihilated. And men at this time had to deal with that, right? The men at this time got to deal with, like, whether or not, what are we going to think about trans people, right? Like, are we going to allow other men to force us at gunpoint to tell our kids that they're a girl? Or to tell us in court that we have to tell my son that that's my daughter? Like, you'll have to fucking kill me or jail me. And both of which would be unconstitutional. So if you want to start the war, go ahead, right? That's the mindset that they had back then. They're like, if you want to tell me that, and they would just use the N-word, is people. Well, I gotta tell you, sir, that you don't know N-words. It's terrible, right? And these were direct quotes. And I mean, these were like verbatim quotes. You know, and like this president right here, he didn't, as far as I know, do anything to stop that from happening. Chester A. Arthur, by the way, highest flag in the land. You know, he's a U.S. president, and I totally get that, you know? It's like, even if you don't respect all of it, that man led the fucking country, and they buried him there. And I say the fucking country because I had no respect for 1860s country, right? He kept the Union together. It didn't fall apart. Not in his era, right? It was a couple years later when it fell apart. And I wonder about the fake presidencies that we have right now, you know, how they compare to the fake presidencies back then. If people didn't know who these men were, they'd never even seen a picture of them. How are they supposed to know, you know, unless they'd met him? And if they did, how are they supposed to know that what he says openly and shakes the hand, kisses the baby for the, you know, for the flashbulb? I mean, it was a completely different era of disinformation, misinformation, and lack of information, ignorance. Completely different. And yet here we are. So they did something right. Like, it stood together, at least enough. Oh, you know. Oh boy. That's unexpected. That's a rare occurrence. Oh yeah, you know. I'm not gonna film them out of respect. Blue jays are like the cops. They hurt a lot of innocent birds, eat a lot of little eggs, fuck up a lot of chaos, but let me tell you, they're the best alarms we got. And they even look like cops. Very bizarre behavior. I can feel it now, like right exactly as I speak. The barometric pressure is kind of rapidly dropping, actually. And the cold air, yeah, you can hear it. The cold air is moving in. It's not the super cold air. That comes like kind of after the storm usually. Or like right as it begins to rain, hence the precipitation, because it's like a different pressure. And but yeah, so soon the little teeny little drops will start. And if you don't get inside or back to your shelter, you're gonna be out here in like potentially a lightning storm, but probably not today. I think I would have known if that was gonna happen. But it sucks because it means I have to go this way, down and then back up, and I wanted to go this way. I guess I could go this way still. I could just run if it starts to rain. That'll work. We'll be back after this. Watch, it'll be like POV me like sprinting in the rain. September 19th, 2022. We'll be back after this. Coincidence? I think not. Record it because I just wasn't thinking to because I didn't care, but I was smelling Yarrow and I smelled a new one and it smelled like deep apple cider and I was like, whoa. Up there with watermelon, I think has been the watermelon and bubblegum, I think have been the rarest. Some are like minty, some are citrusy, like lemon even. Most of them are kind of like nutmeg, vanilla, like I'm not really sure what that one's like. Maybe like cinnamony almost. And those are all really common. I'm gonna get allergies later from this. That one was one of the ones that's kind of soapy. My partner says that some people don't taste soap with cilantro, so I wonder if people have different Yarrow senses. None of these have been really speakable. This one's like distinct, but like it's like really good, but mixed with like tobacco maybe? I don't know. It's a little wacky. Nothing too funky to really talk about. Just kind of like a subtle flavor. I don't know. Like some of them are just kind of like nondescript in a way that like isn't really exciting and doesn't really evoke. Sometimes it evokes like I'm like this is its own thing, and that's what I love with Yarrow. Is that every so whoa. Okay. Speaking of. What? Seriously, speaking of, okay, this one is as close as I can guess. Probably to like cinnamon. This is cinnamon. Yeah, it's cinnamon. Wow. That's like it's not quite cinnamon. It's like cinnamon mixed with like a light sugar, like cinnamon toast sugar. Nothing on that one. Soap. Yo. Anti-gravity powers. We'll do one more.